Hello, everyone, and welcome to this totally unplanned ambush stream. Hope you're all doing well. Yeah, my workday ended a little earlier than usual because several people are out on vacation, and I'd finished up all my responsibilities, and so I find myself with a little extra time on my hands. And this article came across my, I don't know what you want to call it, threshold this morning, and I found it interesting enough to decide to read to you guys. I haven't read the whole thing, just enough to get the gist. But anyway, it's within my wheelhouse, so I thought I'd take a look. But before I get there, for those of you who are joining me, who are few because this was totally unplanned and I just posted it about 3 minutes ago, Bruno Montiero, good afternoon, as it is here. And anybody else who might be lurking or show up in the future, Shadow Claw, Derek LaRue, good afternoon as well. Yes, I'm not usually one to do more than one stream on a single day, as I have the TED Excellence stream coming up this evening. But again, found myself with a little extra time, so thought I'd give it a shot. Mike Savage, Blarg. So yes, what's going on? No, I don't want to do that. Just let me read the article. Okay. Relies on repressive, please consider, disabling my ad blocker. Oh, okay. Let's see if I can do that here without too much. That going to cause me any problems? Hopefully not. Let's hope not. Anyway, so this is from the Daily Princetonian, and this was posted on December 21st, 2022. That was yesterday. And before I get into it, thank you so much, Derek LaRue, for your, again, donation. Appreciate it. No message, but thank you so much. That's very generous of you. And happy holidays to everybody. Robert Pincus, hello. Seftus Wolf, hello. So appreciate that. So what's going on at Princeton University that caught my attention today? Well, 3 Princeton D.E.I. staff members resign, alleging lack of support. Ooh, well, what does that mean? What does lack of support mean? In May, the university's director of athletics was, quote, incredibly excited, unquote, to announce a new hire for the department. Jordan J.T. Turner, who would be joining the university as the inaugural Associate Director of Athletics for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Turner's role was intended to, quote, create and maintain a culture of mutual respect and unity, unquote, and oversee, quote, all aspects of DEI education and training for student athletes, coaches, and staff with Princeton Athletics, unquote, according to a university announcement. Within 4 months, Turner resigned from the role. Turner is not the only university DEI official to recently resign. Since September 2021, 2 other Princeton staff members who were hired to conduct DEI-related work across the university have resigned. All 3 independently alleged a systemic lack of support from the university administration. An investigation by the Daily Princetonian traces the paths that led to the resignations of Turner, Dr. Jim Scholl, and Dr. Avina Ross. In a series of interviews, the 3 shared their experiences working with the university and their respective departments and what eventually prompted them to resign. All right, so here we go, guys. We have 3 individuals involved in Princeton's DEI apparatus, if you want to call it that, who within a couple of months of each other just threw up their hands and left because the university was not providing them the proper support. All right, well, what kind of support were they expecting and what did they get? Scholl, that's Dr. Jim Scholl, served as the chair of the Transgender Health Team at University Health Services, UHS, and the Preventions Program Manager at the Sexual Harassment/Assault Advising, Resources, and Education Office, or SHARE. And Ross, that's Dr. Avina Ross, was the Associate Director of SHARE. Quote, folks like myself are treated like we're on an assembly line, Turner said. Quote, you hire us, you fire us, and you bring someone else in, and people will just stay in their roles of leadership and get away with it, unquote. Yes, it's almost like you're not so much important as maintaining the position, and the titles for the sake of virtue signaling are important. Also, you're not a special snowflake. But either way, Turner, Scholl, and Ross said they came to see a lack of structural support. Something ringing here? Yeah, something's ringing. Okay. Turner, Scholl, and Ross said they came to see a lack of structural support and understanding from the university soon after accepting the role, which led them to feel that there had been an insufficient thought in designing the roles they were hired to fulfill. They see a lack of structural support and understanding, which led them to feel that there had been insufficient thought in designing the roles they were hired to fill. Okay. These feelings eventually boiled over and prevented them from continuing with their jobs, the 3 ex-staff members said. So their feelings got hurt. Okay, well, what was in the original job description? What were they expected, or what did they expect to be doing? And then how did the university treat those positions? Quote, a colleague said to me as I was preparing to move onto campus, if you quit now, no one would blame you, Scholl said. Someone told you if you decide to quit now, no one would blame you. For what? What exactly was the suffering you were experiencing? Okay. In a statement to the Prince, university spokesperson Michael Hotchkins said, quote, there is a shared and continual commitment to ensuring a diverse and inclusive environment at the university in which all staff members can thrive. The data over time shows increased diversity, and we pay special attention to both internal movement and quality of experience with opportunities for professional development, unquote. Have I read a paragraph in recent times that said absolutely nothing with so many words? Just for those of you in the cheap seats, let me read that again and listen for anything of substance being said here. Quote, there is a shared and continual commitment to ensuring a diverse and inclusive environment at the university in which all staff members can thrive. Okay. I mean, by itself sounds relatively innocuous, but then we go on. The data over time shows increased diversity. Okay, well, what data? How do you measure diversity, dare I ask? And we pay special attention to both internal movement, what does that mean? And quality of experience, how do you measure quality of experience? With opportunities for professional development. What is, I mean, even if I took the complaints of the D.E.I, the former D.E.I officials with any seriousness, what does that response even mean? Okay. And this is the big highlighted quote. Quote, it didn't feel like the intention was for me to be fully supported in my role. Yeah, almost like DEI programs in companies and organizations are simply window dressing, virtue signaling window dressing. But okay, again, what were you promised the role would entail versus how the university responded once you were in that role? That's what I kind of need to know to assess this. In May 2022, when Princeton University Athletics first announced that Turner would serve as its first associate director for DEI, their role was described as maintaining a culture of respect and combating, quote, bias based on gender, sexual orientation, ethnicity, race, and all other identities, unquote. Okay, well, just as a hint to Princeton University, race is not an identity unless you're a racist. Ethnicity is not an identity unless you're an ethnocentrist, I suppose. Sexual orientation is not an identity unless you're a sexual orientationalist. And gender isn't an identity unless you're a sexist. So you're already off the mark. But that was the job description, to maintain a culture of respect and combating bias on the basis of all those elements. Okay, I'd be curious to know what they expected that to look like, even if they were being honest about the job description in the first place. In the role, Turner would work collaboratively with the university's Office of Diversity and Inclusion, ODI, Gender plus Sexuality Resource Center, GSRC, and campus life, the announcement said. Collaboratively on what basis? To do what? What was the goal? Again, and I already know, or at least I strongly suspect the whole DEI thing in Princeton's case was just window dressing, virtue signaling. But if they actually made a role for it, what exactly was it meant to do if someone took 3 looks at it? But once in the job, Turner told the Prince they experienced barriers that reduced their ability to affect change. They resigned in September. Change for what? What was the situation? What was the goal? How did you mean to achieve that goal? And how are you blocked from doing it? Again, I haven't read the rest of this article, so I'm sort of asking these questions rhetorically, hoping I get the answers. Quote, I am a black, queer, non-binary person. None of those things say anything about who you are, by the way, who came to Princeton to create a more just and equitable playing field for all, they said in an interview. Quote, in 2022, we know there are deep issues of injustice and inequity in athletics, and unfortunately, those in positions of power within the department missed a crucial opportunity to address those issues head on. I was disappointed by that. Okay, stipulating for a moment that any of this makes any sense. Can you give me an example? Quote, it didn't feel like the intention was for me to be fully supported in my role. The role of equity in athletics is critical to the future of sports at the post-secondary level, unquote, they continued. How? Quote, after I started, my interactions within the department felt more like the point was for me to be a symbol of progress, but not a driver for progress itself, unquote. Well, welcome to the wonderful world of DEI, because it has no value except as a virtue signal, except as a symbol, except as a statement that we're so cool and we're so progressive by reintroducing discrimination on the basis of things that, at least back in the 60s, were found to be non-starters, especially in business and decidedly in education, though affirmative action has put a big question mark on that over the years. That may or may not be resolved in the near future by the Supreme Court. We shall see. Once Turner arrived on campus, they said they were met with, they are legion. Turner is legion. It's a they. It's a multitude. They said they were met with resistance from leaders in the athletics department. Well, resistance to what? What were your suggestions? What were your initiatives that you proposed to them to achieve whatever these ambiguous ends were that they mentioned? They added that they made, see how awkward this is to read? They added that they made the majority of their university professional connections across campus on their own without the help of the department. So you actually had to take the initiative within the position you were given to make relationships with other people on the campus? I mean, it's not exactly a long distance walk, is it, from one department to the other? Okay, what did you expect them to do? Handhold you through every step of the process? What did you want them to do? Quote, when I first started, I felt some support from athletics. And then once I got on campus, that quickly changed, Turner said. Quote, some of my fellow colleagues with little background in DEI were quick to push back on trusting my more than 10 years of experience in this work, unquote. The university did not respond to a specific request for comment on this claim. 10 years of experience in DEI. Did they ever mention what Turner's purported background was on this subject? Okay, so if you had 10 years of experience in DEI, why did you need the university to handhold you to go walk across campus to the other associated departments and talk to the people there? Or am I missing something? I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like not enough details are being provided here. Okay, before coming to Princeton, oh, here we go, the background. Turner held a series of DEI roles at other colleges in the last decade. They had served as the director of the Gender and Sexuality Center at the University of Illinois at Chicago. The University of Illinois at Chicago? Oh, you mean the guys that I just did a stream on like a week or 2 weeks ago now? I mean, the guys who spent $20 million on an opening atrium to a medical facility? Who are so gung-ho about the discrimination in their own departments? Yeah, okay, sounds about right. So, what do you know? 6 degrees of separation, small world. Yes, the director of the Gender and Sexuality Center at the University of Illinois at Chicago, the assistant director of multicultural student affairs at Northwestern University, and a residence hall director at the University of Connecticut. Okay, so again, with a decade worth of experience in this role, you needed Princeton University to help you make connections and network with the other departments on the campus. Why? I mean, setting aside the subject matter itself for a moment, if you're hired as a tenured professional in this area, how much extra help do you require to just make a phone call or walk across campus? Again, I feel like I'm missing something important or something's being withheld from me. Turner said that soon after their onboarding, Director of Athletics John Mack of the John Mack 2000, okay, and other senior leaders in the athletics department, quote, began pulling back on some of the promises that had been made. Some of the, what promises? What promises had been made? Mack did not respond to requests for comment for this story. Okay, so all we're getting is this one person's version of events. Okay, and the people that they are name dropping, I said they, oh my God, have I been indoctrinated? The people that he is mentioning don't even get, okay, all right, well, quote, soon my requests to ease into important tasks were met with directives to, quote, just wait a year, unquote. This was from everything, proposed multi-year projects to minimal 2 to 4 week project commitments, they said. The university did not respond to a specific request for comment on this claim. Okay, Princetonian, honestly, if this is just an interview with this person, you might as well just call it an interview with this person, because if you have no corroborating or even, conflicting information from the people being mentioned, I mean, I guess it's a story, but it's half a story. Anyway, for example, an example, Turner said they hope to lead trainings about trans inclusion policy and guidelines. Having led similar initiatives on other campuses, Turner said this proposed initiative was something they had discussed in their interview for the job at the university. Okay, discussed, were you given approval for it? But did the university approve of that initiative or that proposal? Okay. Turner also said they tried, Turner also, it's the pronouns. The pronouns are jogging my brain in different places. Turner said they also tried to organize training for coaches on facilitating and de-escalating conversations and managing them in ways that, quote, aren't harmful, unquote. Okay, you tried to were any of these things approved of by the college? Because you are their employee. You work for them. If they set the boundaries of what you are and are not able to do, conceivably you have to abide by them. So is it that you just weren't written a blank check for anything you wanted to do? What was the opposition? They said just wait a year? Okay. Quote, I was basically told to put off all training for a year with a plan to revisit at a later unspecified date, they said. Okay, well, that was your directive. You were an employee. What about that was the big problem? Quote, my thought at the time was a concern about what coaches and players needed. I didn't want to go a whole year without achieving any important milestones besides meetings and one-on-one interactions with no identifiable measurable strategy, unquote. Okay, well, if they hired you and gave you no specific goals to achieve, then I suppose that is a failing on their part. And I could agree with that regardless of the subject matter. But you're not telling us what were the boundaries they were putting up. You put proposals in front of them and they weren't certain about them and didn't approve them. So if you weren't given a measurable goal, why did you take the job? I mean, I assume that in the interview process, they must have said, our issue is X and we want to get to Y. Do you think you can do that? What would you suggest we do with your 10 years of experience? If they didn't give you those kind of metrics to begin with, what exactly were you taking the job for? Turner said that their ideas for integrating DEI-related principles into the athletics department's approach to conflict were curtailed. You see, their ideas, I keep thinking that they're referring back to the college as an entity. Turner said that their ideas, yeah, okay. What is Turner's name again? Just for reference here. Jordan JT, well, Jordan could be a boy or girl's name. Okay, that's, yeah, all right. That's ambiguous enough, I suppose. Either way. Okay, let me get back to this. Quote, it was made clear that approaching conflict and potential harm in ways that center the experiences of women, trans women, queer people, and other current and historically marginalized people were not welcomed, Turner said. Quote, people needed only to be committed to the status quo, unquote. Why did you take the job? If they gave you no defined goal, unless you were lied to, I suppose, unless they said something in the interview process or whatever that they completely reneged upon. But it sounds like every time you brought up an idea, they said, let's wait a bit. And that wasn't good enough. I think the activist is running up against the reality of the symbolic nature of the position. I think that might be the problem. Quote, the more I pushed for policy change, the more resistant the leadership became. Well, maybe your ideas weren't desired. Maybe they hired you for window dressing. It was a highly macro-aggressive environment, they added. Quote, I couldn't take the necessary steps that were needed to lay the groundwork for innovative equity work in the department, unquote. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I will, for the sake of argument, stipulate that the university hired you on a bill of goods. Let's call it that, right? They had a symbolic position that was meant to be window dressing for PR purposes, and they hired you to take that position, and you had the expectation that you'd be allowed to actually do something when actually they didn't want anything to be done. They just wanted to be able to say they had somebody in a position with that title. Okay, so in that sense, setting aside the whole DEI thing for a second, it's possible. I don't know all the details, obviously, since I've got a one-sided story here, but it's possible that Turner here was sold a raw deal. And they took this job under false pretense, let's say. But again, with only half the story, I don't know. Turner also noted the personal toll that the job had on them, particularly their mental health. They moved from Chicago, Illinois to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for the job. Yeah, that would be an upheaval, especially if you came into a job where you were not allowed to do anything. Quote, with my family, we moved across the country. I left another role for this opportunity to be a driver for change in athletics, Turner said. It's been fairly traumatic for me, unquote. Now, again, if I take Turner at their word, and again, even if I set aside the whole ridiculousness of DEI as a concept, yeah, if you're offered a position and then you're not allowed to do anything and you realize you're suddenly just a token in the process, that would be kind of depressing. It'd feel like you were kind of stalling your career, if you want to call basing your career around DEI a career, but either way. They said they came to feel unsupported and undermined in their role. Quote, it created such a hostile work environment for me that I literally could not return to the office, they said. Adding that they began to have anxiety attacks in the wake of this environment. Quote, I was hospitalized because of just how stressful the work environment became, and I had little support, unquote. Turner stressed that what they see as the importance of mental health work on campus, particularly in athletics. Wait. Turner stressed what they see as the importance of mental health work on campus, particularly in athletics. Quote, in an age where players like Naomi Osaka, Shakari Richardson, Demar DeRozan, Harry Miller, and many others are advocating for their emotional and mental well-being. We know that there is much work to do, unquote, they said. Okay, I recognize the first two names. I don't know about the latter two names. I'm assuming, by calling them all players, that these are athletes. I don't think that our speaker here is in the same category as a high-pressure competitive athlete in being a DEI officer at a college. I don't really see that. And without any other examples of what's being mentioned as stress-inducing situations in the workplace, I don't know how to evaluate that. But I think Turner might be just setting themselves a little too high on the totem pole without some more information. Quote, is that work going to be uncomfortable for senior leaders and administrators in athletics? Yes. Does that mean we shouldn't do it? No, Turner added. What work? What are you talking about? You were put into a token position for a token showcase of virtue. You haven't understood this in your 10 years of experience? Okay. You weren't allowed to be the on-campus activist you wanted to be. If you were made promises to the contrary, okay, you got a raw deal. You moved across the country to a job that was effectively a nothing burger. I can see the frustration. Everything else aside, I can see the frustration. So maybe, all things else aside, the college is in the wrong here. But then again, I only have one perspective. In the initial announcement, Mack had expressed his excitement about Turner joining the team. Quote, Jordan is a proven leader, and they will be an invaluable asset as we continue to foster a diverse and inclusive culture in Princeton athletics, Mack said in May. Quote, I'm certain Jordan will have an immediate and positive impact on the experience of our student athletes, coaches, and staff, unquote. Hotchkiss, whoever Hotchkiss is, referred the Prince. I'm assuming the Prince is the slang for this publication, because I'm not a Princeton student, obviously. I'm not quite sure who Hotchkiss is. I don't think that's been mentioned previously, but either way, Hotchkiss referred the Prince to a statement made by Senior Associate Director of Athletics Stacy Bunting Thompson to the paper in October. Quote, the position of Associate Director of Athletics for DEI is of the highest importance to the Department of Athletics, and a national search to fill the position is underway, Bunting Thompson wrote. In the same statement, she declined to comment on, quote, other personnel matters, unquote. Yes, it's interesting. The position of the Associate Director of Athletics for DEI is of the highest importance. Not the goals, not the outcomes they're looking for. Turner said that in addition to receiving pushback from the athletics department, okay, again, pushback on what? You wanted to do some things and they said, we're not ready for that. That doesn't sound entirely unreasonable. But okay, they were informed that the existence of their position was receiving backlash from the greater university community. Really? Why was that? Quote, I was told by Mack that there were members of staff and alumni who didn't even believe my role should exist, they said. Quote, there was so much stacked against the success of this role, unquote. All right, why didn't they believe it should exist? I wonder. Are we going to get any information of a responsive nature from anyone mentioned in this article at all? For her part, Bunting Thompson emphasized in her statement that the department's commitment to, quote, creating and maintaining a culture of mutual respect and unity and to combating bias, unquote. Sounds familiar. She highlighted the formation of Tigers Together, an initiative started by athletics in November 2020 to understand the experiences of underrepresented communities and be a force for change. She also noted ongoing partnerships with student-athlete affinity groups. Oh, I love affinity groups. Colleagues across campus and community initiatives through numerous teams and the Princeton Varsity Club. But Turner said they felt that the way they had been treated by the university was unprecedented in their line of work. Quote, I've been a DEI practitioner for 10 years, and I have supported courageous students, staff, and faculty who are pushing against systems that are doing them harm, they said. Quote, "This is the first time I've experienced harm myself with this much access to systemic power as a senior leader," unquote. What harm? All you've described so far is you wanted to do X, Y, and Z, and they said, let's wait a year. I mean, if the college was already experiencing pushback from its own membership about the existence of the position, maybe the thinking was, we need more time to ease this idea into the fabric of things before we start making any radical changes. One thing at a time. Maybe that was their thinking. I mean, I don't know because we don't have any statements from the college, but if they're asking our speaker here for patience in their initiatives and desires, maybe that was the deal. Maybe they had to do a better job of selling the idea and, heating up the pan of boiling water slowly so the frog doesn't jump out immediately. Maybe that was it. So was the college in the wrong, or was our speaker simply impatient? It's hard to say at this point. In May 2021, Share, that's the organization, not the singer, announced that Dr. Jim Scholl would join the office as its new preventions program manager, and would be tasked with leading the office's men's engagement initiatives and clinical service provision. The office's men's engagement initiatives and clinical service provision. What does that do? Scholl later became the chair of the transgender health team for UHS. Scholl resigned from the university in September 2022, the same month as Turner. Quote, "I sort of got sold on this DEI forward-thinking institution," Scholl said. Quote, "I had like 14 interviews with people who preach this big progressive agenda moving towards equity, anti-violence with the university," unquote. Equity, anti-violence. Okay. Scholl explained that the Office of Institutional Equity and Diversity hosted periodic meetings and luncheons for, quote, DEI practitioners, unquote, on campus. As one of the staff members considered to be a DEI practitioner, they said that these luncheons and other meetings of the group, as well as the label itself, often felt performative. Do you mean to tell me that a DEI initiative at an institution is window dressing? As part of the university's DEI annual report, the office would also include information on what the DEI practitioners were doing to advance the missions. Okay, well, are they ever going to explain to us what their end goals were? I mean, if we're talking about diversity at a campus, I can only assume, unless I'm told otherwise, that they had some specific demographic targets for employment or student growth or admissions or something, right? And if we're talking about student athletics, then you wanted to have a diverse population of athletes. So what were the missions? What were the goals? Are they going to tell us? Hotchkiss, who's Hotchkiss? Did I miss something in here? Did I miss a personality in this story? Okay, Hotchkiss, unless that's an entity, I don't know Princeton University. Hotchkiss wrote that the DEI practitioners group includes more than 70 university administrators whose primary responsibilities consist of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Your responsibility is diversity. So all these ambiguous terms. Okay, according to Hotchkiss, okay, who is Hotchkiss? Okay, I'm going to go back to the top real quick. I need to find out, did I miss Hotchch? Hotchkiss wrote, according to Hotchkiss, Hotchkiss referred, Hotchkiss emphasized. Who's Hotchkiss? Okay, I'm confused. So if anybody in the chat, Shadow Claw says it's a school. Okay, Hotchkiss is a school on the campus. Okay. See, I don't know. It is so bizarre. I wish they would have given me some kind of reference. Okay, Hotchkiss is a school on the campus. Okay. Thank you, Shadowclaw. Because I thought it was the last name of somebody in the process of this story. And anyway, according to Hotchkiss, the goals associated with convening the group consisted of fostering community building and connection, supporting cross-institutional collaboration through information sharing, sending emails to one another, okay, and organizing professional development and learning opportunities. What does any of that have to do specifically with diversity, equity, and inclusion, as those terms are often defined? That all sounds like corporate buzzwords for sending emails to one another and keeping open lines communication. That's it. Oh, and also cross-training for different positions. Quote, there was no formal opportunity for or encouragement of ongoing collaboration, Scholl said. Quote, we were siloed aside from the occasional group meeting, unquote. They added that while there are many individuals hired to do DEI-related work across campus, in their view, quote, the structure renders us ineffective. Quote, it kind of feels like this is all intentional to ensure that we don't progress in terms of our DEI goals, Scholl said. Yes, it seems as though Princeton has run up against the window dressing of having a DEI program with the unstoppable force of people who actually believe in DEI dogma. And these two things cannot exist at the same time. You can't just be window dressing and bring on activists. They're going to want to do something. But again, I don't know the rationale of the school because we're not hearing from the school. In a statement to the Prince, Sean Maxim, the Associate Provost for Diversity and Inclusion. Boy, you have all these different positions and offices for diversity and inclusion. What are they there to do in the first place? Why do you have all these different branches of the same idea? We have the Associate Provost for Diversity and Inclusion. We have the Associate Director for DEI and Athletics. Okay. Sean Maxim, the Associate Provost for Diversity and Inclusion, shared a different perspective. He said, a definitive pronoun? What? He said he is excited by the expansion of the DEI practitioners group over the past few years. Quote, as the group has expanded, I'm proud of its ability to remain a community of support for current and new practitioners. You guys aren't doctors, practitioners. Whenever do you hear the word practitioner, except in someone who's talking about like either a medical field, either real or snake oil? Like I'm a practitioner of DEI. A practitioner. I'm proud of its ability to remain a community of support for current and new practitioners to enrich our collective growth through continuous learning, provide space for feedback and frank discussion of shared challenges, and catalyze opportunities for strategic collaboration. What? Oh, man. Okay. Mr. Maxim knows how to play this game. He's accepted his role as a nonsense merchant. I hope Mr. Maxim is pulling a paycheck for this because otherwise, yeah. In a statement to the Prince, Michelle Minter, the Vice Provost for Institutional Equity and Diversity. Wait a second. Hold on. Okay, so we have an Associate Provost for Diversity and Inclusion, and then we have a Vice Provost for Institutional Equity and Diversity. So this means that there's like a Chief Provost and there's like a Presidential Provost. What? Why do you have all of these different branches of the same thing in one institution? You have diversity and inclusion, then you have equity and diversity. You just keep mixing and mashing those three words together into different positions with qualifiers like institutional or athletics. Good gravy. Princeton is nuts. Quote, I am deeply grateful for the depth of expertise, creativity, and commitment of Princeton's DEI practitioners, a group that has expanded significantly in the past decade, she wrote. Oh, yeah, no, I can tell it's expanding. They keep making up new positions. Quote, it has been a pleasure to celebrate with many of these great colleagues as their careers have grown at Princeton or as they have continued to be close collaborators after transitioning to roles outside Princeton, unquote. Okay, you've made some nice contacts both in and outside of the school, I guess. In a statement to the Prince, director of SHARE, Jacqueline Deitch Stackhouse, commented on SHARE's role with the DEI practitioners on campus. She said that the staff, quote, work hard to cultivate relationships and engage in meaningful programmatic partnerships with DEI practitioners across campus, unquote, including those in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, the GSRC, the Carl A. Field Center for Equality and Cultural Understanding, athletics, health, promotion, and prevention services, and Tigerwell. I wonder how much money Princeton has invested in this vast web of DEI departments, positions, etc. And I can only assume that it is disposable income on the part of the university. Because why else would you invest this much money in something that seems to have absolutely no purpose? And at every point so far in this article, when an official has started to talk even nearly about what they do or what their goals are, all we get is corporate legalese. Quote, even when we don't have an official infrastructure linking our respective DEI practitioners together, we find ways to collaborate because it is the best way forward to reach our broader anti-oppression goals, she wrote. Such as? What are your goals? I mean, can't you give us one goal? Just one concrete goal. We want to get to X percentage of Y by year X. Why can't you at least give us that? Out of all of this, out of everyone who's been interviewed so far, no one has stated any goals at all. But from Scholl's point of view, this infrastructure of DEI was, quote, poorly organized and marked by a, quote, lack of coordination. Scholl said the university is constantly creating, quote, reductive DEI committees and coalitions, which are scattered across campus. Yes, it does appear that the university has created a series of redundant DEI positions and organizations across camp. I agree. Just reading this article, I can't even understand what half of these people are meant to be doing or why they have such overlapping titles for different departments when they all say the same thing. Thank you, A2P. If I'm ever in a position to run a college or university, I'm going to make Stanford the only banned word in the whole campus. Stanford. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, I've had a storied history on my channel with Stanford University in particular. There's a playlist on my channel. You have to kind of dig into the playlists tab to find it, a Stanford education. But every time I've come across anyone who has said that they either worked for or have an association with Stanford University, my red flags start going up in my mind. Now, I haven't heard Stanford here yet, but Princeton at this point might be a close second. Thank you, A2P. Oh, boy. Okay. Yes, Scholl said the university is constantly creating reductive DEI committees and coalitions, which are scattered across campus. They said that the committees and coalitions establish diffuse goals which are not measurable or attached to deadlines and therefore not achievable. Nice work if you can get it, is what I say. Quote, moreover, the groups don't operate with any urgency, which is a failure to recognize that people's health, well-being, and safety are on the line, they said. Or they recognize that they're being given some kind of power and, I assume in many cases, a paycheck simply for being in the position without being required to do anything, which, like I say, nice work if you can get it. But then that is a lot about what DEI really is at its core. It's about simply being a symbol, simply being performative, simply being window dressing so the organization that you're attached to can virtue signal to everybody else about their robust DEI program. And it sounds like Princeton has a robust DEI program of just having people with DEI in their title all over the place. And if they lose a couple in the process by either resignation or otherwise, they have plenty of backups. Minter emphasized that Princeton's approach to DEI strategy is, quote, comprehensive, detailed, and seeks to hold all units and leaders accountable. Accountable for what? What are their goals? I mean, if Princeton is running basically a con job here on the whole DEI thing, and I think maybe in a sense that they sort of in the back of their mind admit this is all nonsense, but they have to maintain it for the sake of appearances. Yeah, okay. But they have to have some stated goals. So, Minter, I'm asking rhetorically, what are your goals that you're going to hold people accountable for? And then what does accountability look like? She said in the statement that every cabinet officer, in quotation marks, is responsible for working with colleagues to develop a DEI plan for their respective unit. Okay, a plan to do what? Quote, these plans are regularly reviewed and the activities in the plans are evaluated. At the institutional level, Princeton regularly assesses climate, demographic, and benchmarking data, she wrote. Okay, so you are talking about demographic fit. You must have some percentages you're aiming for. Benchmarking data, okay. Not quite sure what climate means, but could you give us some examples of what you're talking about? Could you give us one of these plans to examine? During Scholl's time at Share, the office experienced a significant increase in demand. Demand for what? In part a reflection of reduced campus activity during the COVID-19 pandemic, according to D.E.I Stackhouse. Wait. The office increased in demand for its services when there were fewer people on campus. Why? Scholl said they were then expected to pick up some of the slack. Wait. If activity was reduced on campus during the pandemic, why would that department have an increased demand? Quote, in addition to the day-to-day of leading our prevention initiatives, prevention of what? And supporting survivors of what? Every 3 weeks, I was doing a full week of on-call work, they said. On-call work to do what? Quote, working to address one pandemic, campus sexual violence, while trying to survive another, COVID-19 is overwhelming, unquote. There was a pandemic of campus. Where are the police? What are you doing? Are you an officer? Are you law enforcement? During the COVID lockdowns, there was a pandemic of campus sexual violence? What? Okay, D.E.I Stackhouse said that in January 2022, Share added a half-time clinician, quote, that helped absorb some of the volume, unquote. What? The volume of campus sexual violence? What? But explained that other team members took on additional responsibility. Quote, I started experiencing symptoms of burnout, Scholl said, adding that they did not feel supported by the university in taking leave or caring for themselves. I need more details. I have no idea what you're talking about. And if there was a pandemic of campus sexual violence, why weren't the police involved? What? Quote, I can offer one specific example. Oh, thank goodness. All right. I'll take an example over none. When I made a request to go get the monkeypox vaccine in New York, they said. Wait a second. The monkey... Was the campus still locked down by the time that became a thing? What? Okay. When I made a request to go get the monkeypox vaccine in New York, they said, Scholl is HIV positive and explained that they are at a higher risk for a more severe outcome if they were to contract monkeypox. Quote, I explained in an unnecessary level of detail that I needed to take a day off to go to New York for the appointment. Okay, so you wanted to go to New York to get the vaccine for yourself. Okay, I misread that for a second as you were going off to New York to get some kind of supply to bring back to the college clinic. I completely misread that. Okay, so you wanted to go to New York to get vaccinated. Okay, let me start over again. I explained in an unnecessary level of detail that I needed to take a day off to go to New York for the appointment, i.e. the appointment to get vaccinated. Okay. The response to my request was, well, can you still join the staff meeting in the morning? And I was like, okay, yeah, I guess I can do that. Okay. They later were asked to work on the train on the way to the city up until their appointment time. Work on the train. So I'm assuming this was some kind of paperwork. Okay. Quote, it was frustrating because there was a complete lack of empathy, much less consideration for the context of a queer person trying to survive yet another plague, they said. It says they were later asked. You weren't told, right? So you could have said, no, I won't have connection or something. But you agreed to attend the staff meeting. If they asked you if you could attend the staff meeting and you said you could, okay, and then you were asked to work on the train, why didn't you say no? And was that in the context of your sexual orientation, or was that in the context of you being an employee? Yeah, I don't trust this one-sided tale telling here, but whatever. Asked about this allegation, Hotchkiss, the school, referred the Prince to the university's sick leave policy. Full-time employees accrue sick time during each fiscal year, typically accumulating up to 8 days per fiscal year. Okay, so someone was trying to use their sick leave to go off campus and was asked if they could still attend the work meeting, and if they worked in between, then they wouldn't have to take sick leave, I guess. But no, I was being unempathized against because of my sexuality or something. Okay. Scholl also said that as part of their role, they started working and running the Strength in Coaching on Relationships, Respect, and Equality, or SCORE program within the athletics department. Do you guys think you might have way too many equity, equality, diversity, inclusion programs on your campus? That they're all over the place. I mean, you even mentioned it earlier. There might be too many of these things. Thank you, Kiever Dam. Read Shadowclaw's message in chat. Hotchkiss is a person, not a school. Oh, what? Wait, I thought it was a school. You guys told me it was a school. Wait a second. Okay, Shadowclaw. Let me go up here. Scribelight. I made a mistake. Hotchkiss is Michael Hotchkiss, who is Princeton's spokesperson. Did I miss that in the article? Is that my mistake? I apologize. It's just they kept mentioning Hotchkiss out of somewhere, and I don't remember them ever being mentioned previous. So, okay, Michael Hotchkiss is a Princeton spokesperson. Okay. We'll get there eventually. By the way, I had a pepper jack before I started this stream, so I might be a little wobbly myself at this point. And this subject matter really does a number on my brain to begin with. Okay, asked about this allegation, Hotchkiss, the spokesperson, referred the Prince to university's sick leave policy. Okay. Scholl also said as part of their role, they started working and running the Strength in Coaching on Relationships, Respect, and Equality SCORE program within the athletics department, where they would train representatives from every varsity athletics team and their coaches. Train them on what? The program emphasizes building and enhancing health relationships and knowledge related to DEI. Like what? What related to DEI? How does any of this achieve a DEI goal, and why won't you tell us what the goals are? According to D.E.I Stackhouse, the SCORE program was adapted from the Coaching Boys into Men curriculum that was launched by Share in 2015. I can't even imagine what that means given the context of everything else so far. Coaching boys into men, K through 12 curriculum. Quote, SCORE is a comprehensive 3-year training program, which includes several important elements, including a train the trainer session, 5 30-minute peer-facilitated discussions about what? And semesterly booster conversations. Oh, get your boosters until the training cycle repeats, she wrote, adding that the program was, quote, revised to amplify its DEI content in fall of 2020. How? A 3-year program with 5 30-minute discussions and semesterly booster conversations. Okay, so 3 years to have 2.5 hours of discussions and a conversation once a semester. Training, what does it do? What is it for? Scholl explained that in their experience, it was apparent that, quote, some teams only seemed interested in participating in the training as it helped ensure NCAA compliance, Ivy Plus compliance, and Title IX compliance, unquote. Yeah, it's almost like all of this DEI stuff. It's like an open secret, isn't it? That it's all just a checkbox. We just have to say we have a DEI program. We just have to say we, quote unquote, went through the DEI training. It's all for show. It's all for show, even though at its core, it promotes completely ridiculous and regressive stuff. At this stage of the game, it really is just window dressing. The people taking it seriously seem to be the only ones who don't realize this. Quote, in my mind, the share office was going out of their way to try and improve the health and well-being and culture of athletics, they said, adding that with a few exceptions, quote, we weren't often met with gratitude. To some coaches, you would think I was enacting some form of punishment, unquote. Yeah, it was taking time out of their day, their schedule, and their training for actual athletics to talk about their feelings, to talk about things that didn't matter, to promote a sense of divisiveness on the basis of race and gender and orientation that shouldn't be present in the first place, but somehow you guys have transmogrified into a good thing. That might be the problem. What did any of that have to do with actual athletics? I can only imagine that's what some of the coaches were thinking. Why am I wasting my time with this when I have a team to train? Deech Stackhouse said the athletics administrators, coaches, and student athletes have provided input and, quote, helped shape the program from its outset. In what way? From what to what? I would love to know. Thank you, Matt Barnes. Take it easy on the Pepperjack scribbles. The chat can sense it and will throw you curveballs, mess you up. Merry Christmas to you and yours, and chat as well. Thank you, Matt Barnes. Merry Christmas to you as well. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah. Whatever you prefer, wherever you may be. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I had one Pepperjack. I'm not completely off my rocker, but I might be a little wobbly. That's all. Okay, helped shape the program from its outset. Do tell, quote, we receive regular feedback. I'm slurring my words a little bit. We receive regular feedback about how the program fosters meaningful conversations and influences team dynamics, she wrote. Define meaningful. And are they courageous conversations? Glenn Singleton. Quote, based on athletic staff recommendations, coaches and administrators from other universities have reached out to share to explore the possibility of bringing SCORE to their host institutions, unquote. Oh my God, all these acronyms. What do you do? What did your program look like when you came in, and how did it change from the feedback? Why are you guys so reticent to give us any details on your goals, your methods, or the evolution of your process? Why do we get nothing but buzzwords? Now, admittedly, Who knows who edited this article? Maybe they're leaving out really important stuff. I don't know. But I tell you what, I'm not hearing anything concrete. It's all just pablum. When Scholl first met Turner, they said they were, quote, impressed. Quote, their presence reinvigorated me. How? Why? Quote, when I heard what they wanted to accomplish, would you tell us what that is? The direction they wanted to go? By all means, edify me. The partnerships they wanted to have, Scholl said. I was upfront and transparent about the challenges they would face, but I said I wanted to support them in whatever way I could, unquote. So with the 10 years of experience Turner had prior to this, Turner had no foreknowledge of what challenges would be faced in this process? Okay, and for the record, what I'm drinking right now is just water. Scholl explained that they were eager to help Turner with their efforts towards creating trans-inclusive policy and DEI training opportunities for athletics. But shortly after starting, it seemed to Scholl that Turner's programs were being shut down. Well, from Turner's telling of it, it sounded like they were telling Turner to slow their roll, literally and figuratively, because, again, it sounded like, as was mentioned, the very existence of Turner's position had pushback from university staff. So Turner wanting to come in and do a barnstormer of initiatives and programs and changes and everything else, the college probably got a little cagey on that and said, wait a year. Give us time to get your position settled in, maybe was the thought. I'm surprised nobody's thought about that possibility here. But again, we're not hearing much from the college except through Hotchkiss, who is not a college, but is a person. Thank you, Shadowclaw. Scholl said that, quote, very early on, they would agree to collaborate with Turner on a specific initiative. However, a couple of weeks later, Scholl would receive an email from Turner to the effect of, quote, I was just told that I shouldn't do that, and it should be tabled for the future, unquote. Okay, so again, an indication that, granted that Turner's being honest here, that the college wanted to ease into the position, right? Ease into the existence of this role. Quote, no one I spoke to in athletics seemed shocked that they left, Scholl added. The culture was not ready to support that type of role, unquote. Maybe that's why the college wanted to take it slow. Am I just on an island by myself here in this? I mean, whatever you might say about the honesty of the college when proposing the role to Turner and what they said in the interview process, which we don't know, or what promises were made, which we don't know, is it not obvious at this point that the college was wanting to ease that position into existence to normalize its presence on the campus and in the culture before starting to make any radical changes? Could it be that Turner lacked patience? I'm just asking. In July 2017, the university announced Dr. Avina Ross as the Prevention Curriculum Assessment Manager. Prevention Curriculum Assessment Manager of the Share Office. Ross was made the inaugural Associate Director of the Share Office in November 2019 before resigning in September 2021. Okay, so she joined up in 2017, resigned in September of 2021. Okay. In her initial role, Ross was tasked with building the prevention work on campus. Prevention, okay, I'm assuming prevention of something terrible. Assessment evaluation work in the office, changing the strategic framework of the office, and supervising share peers, which included revising their training and curriculum. Okay. After 6 months as Prevention Curriculum Assessment Manager, she approached Deitch Stackhouse with the hopes of being promoted to a leadership role, but said she was, quote, shut down. Okay. Well, why? Quote, we were the only student-facing office in UHS that didn't have an associate or assistant director, she told the Prince. She said that after speaking with employees at other Ivy League institutions, she learned that her role was very similar to that of an associate or an assistant director. Okay, very similar. Okay, very similar does not mean the same. But okay, you wanted a promotion after 6 months, but you were shut down. Okay. Ross said that she had, quote, great performance evaluations, but was told to wait for the new UHS building to be built to receive a promotion. The university expects to complete construction of the new UHS facility in 2024. Okay, well, again, you lacked patience, but of course, at the same time, if the college has been stringing you along for several years or something, then okay, quit. After Ross was denied a promotion, well, it doesn't sound like she was denied a promotion. Was she promised one in 2024? But okay, after Ross was denied a promotion, she went back onto the job market. I'm a little fuzzy on this timeline. So in July 2017, they announced Ross as the first prevention curriculum assessment manager. Okay, Ross was made the inaugural associate director in 2019 and then resigned in 2021. After 6 months as prevention curriculum assessment manager. Okay, in her first 6 months back in 2017. Okay, so July, August, September, October, November. Okay, so by early 2018, she asked for a promotion and she was denied. And then she hung on to the job before being made a different role as an associate director in 2019. So about a year or so later after that. And then she resigned 2 years later. So she started out in one position, wanted a promotion 6 months later, got turned down, stayed on in that position until 2019 when she got a new role. And then she resigned 2 years after that because she wasn't given a leadership position. Okay, well, again, if they kept promising you something you didn't get, all right. Okay. Ross claimed that she applied and received competing job offers for similar roles outside of Princeton. Okay, so did she get a job for a similar role? Did she get that leadership position elsewhere? Quote, the only way that Deitch Stackhouse was willing to give me a promotion was when there was competition and the office was at risk of losing me. This is something that BIPOC people experience in higher education all the time at the hands of white leadership, Ross said. Oh, okay, so you're accusing this lady, I think, of racism in not giving you a promotion, but you stayed with the university for 4 years. Okay. After learning about Ross's job offers, Ross said that Dietrich Stackhouse countered with a new role, the associate director of SHARE. Well, who's the director of SHARE? Did I miss that part? I mean, okay, quote, I was celebrated on campus when I got a promotion, but that's not what happened. What? What happened is that I had to travel across the country, which cost me time and money to create competition, only to earn the opportunity that should have been extended to me months earlier where I originally wanted to be, Ross said. There was never any accountability or apology, she added. Unless you had it in writing, you weren't owed anything. You created a situation where they either had to replace you or promote you. You played the game, and then you turned down the opportunity that was presented as that. I want to give you a quick story, okay? I have for the sake of anonymity, I'm going to say a friend. I had a friend who worked at a company for several years in the same position, right? And perfectly comfortable there. Wasn't looking for any major new responsibilities or any new position, anything like that. Out of the blue, a competing firm came to this friend of mine and said, hey, and they'd met at some like dinner or something or whatever. And they said, hey, I know you do this kind of work for these guys. We need somebody over here to take charge of our department. I'd like to offer you that position. So this other firm was attempting to poach my friend, right? I mean, it was perfectly friendly. Now, this wasn't anything that my friend sought after. This was just dropped in their lap, right? And so I remember them talking to me and telling me about this, and I said, and they weren't sure what to do. And I said, well, the first thing you do is you go to your boss and you alert them to this job offer that's been made to you. Okay? That's the first thing you do. Well, no, I take it back. Well, first I advised they go talk to this other firm and find out what exactly they were offering. That's what it was. And so they went off to this other firm and they sat down for essentially an introductory interview, and they described to them, this is the job. This is what we'd be offering as far as pay. These would be your responsibilities, etc. And my friend said, okay, I'll think about it. Then I got the phone call and I was like, okay, well, now you immediately go to your boss and say, look, I got an unsolicited job offer from this other firm, and this is the details of what they're offering. And then just basically don't say anything else, right? And what happened was, immediately after years of working for this one firm and being completely loyal and everything else, they put before their HR people, like, I got an offer. And they were like, oh my God, well, we don't want to lose you. So not only will we match what they're offering, but we'll give you this extra benefit and everything else. And then they were like, they called me up and says, oh my God, this just happened. I'm like, I figured something like that might. Either that or you'd have this other opportunity over there. And they were like, well, I didn't want to go work for them. And I said, well, that's even better, because here's the thing. You didn't seek this out. You were completely blameless. It's not like you were going up against your employer or something. So this is the perfect situation. And like, what do I do next? And I say, you contact the other firm and you graciously thank them for their consideration and really appreciate them thinking about you, but your current employer made a competitive offer and you're going to stay. And you keep everything very friendly, no animosity, etc. Okay, so competition and necessity and scarcity of talent was created in my friend's case, and they leveraged it to their advantage. And lo and behold, that's what happened here. And now, having done so, this lady gets ticked off because it went the way they thought it would. Okay, well, I wonder if she ended up taking one of these other jobs. Okay, to create competition only to earn the opportunity that should have been extended to me months early. So you earned something that you felt should have just been handed to you. Well, welcome to the wonderful world. I don't know what to tell you. I don't think that's racism. I think that's just economics. There was never any accountability or apology. What should they apologize for? What should they apologize for? You took a job, you stayed in a job, you advanced in title within 2 years of you having taken the original job, and then 2 years after that, you quit because you wanted something else that they then offered you because you created competition. What? Quote, I could see the intention behind trying to bring in more diversity-related practitioners to campus because it happened. Okay, but the environment was not set up for us to thrive, Ross said. I still look at my Princeton colleagues as the best colleagues I've ever had. What, even though that they're horrible racists who held you down from additional promotions because of your skin color? What? Ross and Scholl were both part of an informal group of DEI practitioners who, quote, came together because of the harms we experienced in the institution, unquote. Quote, we were generally expected to operate within the Princeton institution, and we were typically the folks in spaces that questioned the things that other folks didn't question, she said. Like what? Quote, we were the ones essentially taking a lot of risks in committees that had folks at Princeton from Princeton leadership hearing us being vocal and questioning and challenging, she added. Quote, it gets to a point where it becomes too much. Unquote. Why won't you give us any specifics? Why don't you give us an example of what you're talking about? What did you question? What did you challenge? How did it go? Hearing us being vocal. Well, how were you vocal? Were you vocal in a polite and professional manner? Or were you like obnoxious or something? I mean, what? Deitch Stackhouse wrote that Share staff recognizes the office's shortcomings and are working to improve their work. Quote, although staff are trying to promote equity and anti-oppression in our work, whatever that means, we, our community, and society have so much more work to do, she wrote. Quote, we recognize that anti-oppression work and the commitment to change is an ongoing and sometimes non-linear process, she added. Quote, however, we decide to show up every day to acknowledge our imperfections, take ownership, learn, and change while doing our best to provide our campus community with empowering support and advocacy, unquote. Just, okay, I know this isn't even a TEDx. I don't.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
What does any of that mean? Good, great. You know, again, it's like, it feels like there are some people at Princeton who get the joke and some people who don't. Ross said that she left the university for a variety of reasons. What? I mean, an absolute racist, discriminatory boss wasn't enough? Okay. Including what she described as the traumatic difficulty in securing her promotion and the COVID-19 pandemic. Securing her promotion, the thing that she was owed. To Scholl, their personal frustrations with their experience as a university employee relate to their broader frustration with the university as an institution. They were first inspired to work in the Share office, they said, because, quote, Princeton has every opportunity to become one of the most robust and impressive violence prevention programs in the country, unquote. Now, they said they see the institution in a different light. Quote, we have the data and knowledge. We have the technology. We can repair him. We can improve him. Sorry, real quick. Thank you, Keldrick. None of this sounds like racism, sexism, or any other ism. This is normal career experiences. Yeah. Nothing of what's being described thus far, except for their qualification after the fact, sounds like anything other than Princeton has too much supply and not enough demand. Let's think about that for a second, shall we? We have, I don't even know how many now, at least 3 or 4 different organizations on the campus that deal with D.E.I. whatever. We have at least 5 or 6 different positions of various mix and match verbiage about D.E.I. that don't seem to have any purpose. And then we have somebody trying to get a promotion in a field on the campus which can't even define what their goals are, and ticked off that they're not getting a promotion that they feel they deserve simply for showing up. Yeah. What is this organization meant to achieve? Why throughout this entire article have we not been given a single goal? Princeton wants by 2025 to have percentage X on this thing. Why is that not a statement that they can make in this article to clarify what purportedly all of these people and all of these organizations are meant to be working towards? Right? We hear something about violence prevention. Violence prevention. Is that what Princeton University is supposed to be doing? That sounds more like a law enforcement realm. Like they're talking about a pandemic of sexual violence on campus. What kind of crime rate is there on Princeton? Was that ever brought up? Was that ever checked by this publication? Like if someone said there is a pandemic of sexual assault on that campus, well, how much? What does that mean? Who's doing that? Are the police involved? Is there a legal team involved? Are any of the people listed so far trained in law enforcement or crime prevention or anything? The mind it doth wander. Quote, the Share office believes anti-oppression work is anti-violence work, and we are committed to providing services, both intervention and prevention, that anchor to this framework, Deitch Stackhouse wrote. Anti-oppression work is anti-violence work. What do you do that is anti-oppression work? I mean, if it just automatically is anti-violence work, I don't need to ask about that. Second one, what do you do to prevent oppression on campus? Name one program. Name what the numbers were before you started and what they were after you started, if you have any metrics you can offer at all as to what success is supposed to look like. Hotchkiss, the spokesperson, emphasized that there are 15 departments at the university. 15 departments? 15? Holy cats! Are you kidding me? Oh my God. What is your DEI budget? I would love to know, what is Princeton's yearly DEI budget to maintain 15 departments on one subject? Good gravy. I mean, I did a video a couple of weekends ago, a Sunday stream, where we had 4 DEI consultants sitting in a round table discussing their jobs. Some of you may remember this. You can find it on the channel. It was about DEI, was a diversity, equity, belonging, inclusion, etc. And it became very obvious very quickly that their concerns about the DEI industry, let's say, was that a lot of workplaces, a lot of companies, when they had to start cutting their budgets, they first went to the diversity departments for cuts. And they kept thinking, like, why is that? And people don't take this seriously and everything else. And I kept saying to myself, okay, well, A, you guys are just worried about your jobs first and foremost, which is fine, I guess, in a way. But also, it's probably because they cannot square maintaining a DEI apparatus in their company as an expense worth keeping if it doesn't show any benefit. On the other hand, is Princeton, by any chance, does it get its funding from, like, I don't know, federal sources and private sources and other things? Is this probably disposable income? If they've got 15 departments for DEI, sounds like some kind of, I mean, I don't want to go too far in making speculations, but that sounds suspicious to me. I really want to know, what is Princeton's DEI budget? Hotchkiss emphasized that there are 15 departments at the university engaged in DEI learning paths, which will include university-wide learning and guided resources, as well as facilitated workshops and self-directed study. Imagine if you took whatever you're spending on these 15 departments and put them into actual academics. He added that that employees at the university have participated in more than 6,000 learning opportunities across 150 DEI-related classes, and more than 400 managers have been trained on mitigating bias in the hiring process. Okay. Quote, employees have also engaged in training regarding LGBTQ allyship, bias, power, privilege, and workplace communication, psychological safety, and more, Hotchkiss wrote. Good gravy. Adding to his general statement that, quote, there is a shared and continual commitment to ensuring a diverse and inclusive environment at the university in which all staff members can thrive, unquote. Hotchkiss also referred the Prince to the university's 11 employee resource groups. Oh, joy, 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 joy. Happy, happy, happy. So not only did we have affinity groups earlier in the article, we have 15 DEI departments, but we also have 11 ERGs. Oh, joy. Which are open to all employees and aim to provide opportunities for meetings between faculty and staff who share common interests and backgrounds. They've got a hyperlink to their ERGs here. Do they have a list of them? They don't. They just wait. Sorry, guys, I'm not showing this. There's nothing to show. It's just a page that says employee resource groups. Helpful links, employee resource groups. Oh, here we go. Okay. Here, I'm going to list them off. Here, actually, and I'll share that in a second. Let me finish the article, and I'll share that page in a second. Oh, my God. With more than 2,100 members, ERGs play a meaningful role in Princeton's employee culture, Hotchkiss wrote. In Turner's eyes, though, none of those resources grapple with the root of the problem as they experienced it. Quote, my position and its potential for change were more symbolic than actually real, they said. You don't say. Well, anyway, let's get on to, just for informational purposes, the employee resource groups at Princeton University. Asian staff at Princeton. Disability Alliance. International Employees Group. Latino Princetonians. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. Military service and veterans. Okay, there's the very first one that has anything to do with personal merit or status. Great. Network of African American Male Administrators. Well, that's very specific. Princetonians of Color Network. Oh, okay. Princeton Social Professionals, whatever that means. South Asian Affinity Group, and Women of Princeton. Wow. There you go, guys. Oh boy, Princeton has its own ERGs. And again, military service and veterans stand out as the only one of this list, as far as I can tell. Maybe social professionals, not sure what that means. That might actually be something there for people in a position, in a circumstance, or of an earned status. Everything else, I mean, international employees group, maybe that one. I don't know. Disability Alliance. Anyway, I'm not going to go any further than that. That's all I got, guys. I just wanted to read that article. I didn't know that article was that long, honestly. That was a lot lengthier than I thought it would be, but I mean, at least they went into some detail, sort of. Anyway, I may or may not look up and see if there's ever a video presentation from Princeton on their ERGs. That might be fun, but that'll be for another time. I'm going to call it here, as I went way longer than I thought I would. But if you found any of this interesting or have any other points you'd like to make or corrections of what I said or things that you might know otherwise, please leave them in the comments. Please leave a like if you would. Also, as a shout out to my friend In Human Form, a true crime content creator on YouTube, as well as analytical essays on other things. He just put out a new video regarding Robert Hansen, the serial killer up in Alaska. And In Human Form went to the effort, because he is an Alaska resident, to actually go to the locations relevant to the story of Robert Hansen, film there, and give some historical context to both the location and how it has changed over time since the time of the serial killings. Give that video a look if you would. Leave a like on it if you can. And also let him know that you came there by my recommendation, because then I can leverage that into him coming on my channel sometime again in the near future. But beyond that, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like to hear more from me, you can find me here tonight, amazingly enough, in just a few hours at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, for another episode of TED Excellence, where I'll take a look at another off-brand TED Talk. The title of tonight's presentation is Don't Be a Gender, Be an Airbender. I have absolutely no idea what that means, but we'll find out together. So with that, moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everybody who donated, thank you so much for your generosity, especially at this time of year. Appreciate it very much. Boy, oh boy. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Thank you guys for joining me. Hope you all have a good rest of your Thursday. Hope you have a good rest of your weekend, and a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday and a happy Hanukkah and a happy New Year and all the happies that you can happy. I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.